Welcome, dear children, to Moral Science class for Standard 8. Chapter 16, Fear, the Greatest Evil. My dear children, in Standard 8, in Moral Science subject, you are learning certain Gandhian values. And in this chapter 16, Gandhiji talks about fear and he guides us how we should behave when we are afraid of something. hmm? How we should come out of our fear. Now, my dear children, you know that as a human being, we experience different feelings and emotions at different times in our life. We feel happiness, we feel sadness, we feel depression, dejection. We also have the feelings of enthusiasm and happiness, and sometimes we also have the feelings of fear, great fear in our mind. Actually, fear is a mental state, my dear children. You know that when we come across something new, when we face some kind of uncertainty, or when we have to face risk or danger, that fear emerges in our mind and it totally captures the person. Now, my dear children, most of the fears are imaginary, and according to Gandhi, fear is the greatest evil. You know, my dear children, that to uh, steal the things, to tell the lies, these all are evils. But according to Gandhiji, fear is also a kind of evil, and that too, it is the greatest evil. So, my dear children, let us read the lesson. You may refer to page number 53 in your textbook. The greatest enemy of a man is fear. It affects human nature and dignity. A fearful man forfeits his status as a human being. Under fear, we lose all our senses and our growth comes to a standstill. Now, what is said? That man's greatest enemy is fear. And this fear affects human nature and human dignity too. A fearful person forfeits. Forfeit means he lives away, he drops his status. So the status of a person falls down. A human being, as a human being, a status of a man falls down and he loses his dignity. Under fear, we lose our senses, means we are not able to think properly, we cannot act properly, we can't take proper decisions when we are under fear. So we lose all our senses and our growth comes to a standstill. We cannot grow if we continuously are under fear. Understood, my dear children? Okay. So you can see that it's really a very bad experience to be constantly under fear. So one should try to come out of the fear one is facing. Maybe it is a real or an imaginary, but we should always be uh, full of will, full of determination that I should come out, I would emerge out of this fear. Okay. A coward cannot enjoy freedom. Cowardly person means a fearful person, one who is not ready to face the challenge is called a coward. Now, a coward person cannot enjoy freedom and he will always be slave of what he is afraid of. For Gandhiji, cowardice was the greatest evil. Okay, so cowardice means is the opposite of what? Bravery. So cowardice is also the greatest evil. One should not be afraid of anything. He was a champion of ahimsa, but he preferred hinsa if ahimsa is the result of one's fear to strike. If ahimsa is okay, according to Gandhiji, he was worshipper of the ahimsa. But he says that if ahimsa came as the result of our fear, then it is not acceptable. Taking inspiration from Gita, he declared that fearlessness is the most important of the all divine attributes. So, from Bhagavad Gita, Gandhiji has taken the inspiration from Bhagavad Gita and he said that fearlessness is the most important of the divine attributes. For Gandhiji, fearlessness is freedom from all external fear. Now, external fear means the fear which come from outside, fear of disease, bodily injury and death, of losing one's nearest and dearest, of losing reputation or giving offense, and so on. So now, if you don't have fear of all this, of what? Fear of disease or of bodily injury or death or of losing one's nearest and dearest, of losing the reputation or giving offense. All these types of fears are external fears. And Gandhiji cultivated the idea that one who overcomes the fear of death overcomes all other fears. Okay. If you are able to defeat the fear of death, when you are able to overcome the fear of death, then you will overcome all other fears. There are some people who do not fear death. You might have seen this type of daredevils, some mm, stunt men, those who doesn't show slightest of the fear. So they don't fear the death even, but they fear from minor ills of life. Some are ready to die themselves, but cannot bear their loved ones being taken away from them. So some people are physically very strong, but mentally they are very weak. So they can't bear that their loved ones are taken away from them. Some misers are ready to part with their lives, but not with their properties. So on the other hand, there are certain people, they are misers. Misers means what? Those who are not ready to spend the money. They are called misers. So they are ready to part with their life. They will give away their life. But they will not part with their property. Even a just and honest man may be afraid of losing his good name and prestige. Even not only that, in case of some um, notorious people, they are afraid, but even honest people are also afraid. They are afraid of what? They are afraid of losing their good name, of their prestige. So there are different kind of fears, my dear children, but one should not be afraid of any kind of fears. That's what Gandhiji tells us. For Gandhiji, all such fears are obstacles in path of truth. Now you know that for Gandhiji, truth is God for himself. And that is why he says that all these type of fears are the obstacles, they are the hindrances in the path of truth. If you want to search truth, first of all, you should devoid yourself of fear. A perfect fearlessness can be attained by realizing God in one's life. How can we become a perfect, fearless person? Only by realizing God in our life. That yes, God's presence is always there with us, and that is why we can become a perfect, fearless person. Okay, so constant reminder that God is with us, God is with us, He is taking care of us and our life and the people around us. This type of feeling gives you a perfect fearlessness. Okay, my dear children. The secret of Gandhiji's success in his personal and public life was that he feared nothing or nobody. Now you know that Gandhiji was not only a great leader, first and foremost, he was a great and very famous lawyer. He was an advocate and he had to um, um, take up those cases in which he had to prove certain things, leaving the fear aside. He always remained, Gandhiji always remained on the path of truth, and he never felt afraid in speaking the truth, whatever may be the condition. And that is why Gandhiji's success totally dependent depended on the fact that he never feared anybody. He feared nobody, he feared nothing. In his childhood, like any other child, he was prone to do mistakes. Okay, in his childhood, Gandhiji made also many mistakes. But whenever he realized it, he had the courage to confess and correct it. Gandhiji made the mistakes, but he corrected those mistakes and he confessed them. Confessed means admitted those mistakes in open, in front of everyone. He said, "Yes, I did it." He had to morally fight with the mighty people of authority many a time. Now, sometimes he had to fight morally. Morally means for the principle. He had to fight with the people of authority many a times, sometimes even in foreign lands. But he did not shy away from that. In South Africa, we see him refusing the order of policemen to change to a third class. We have read that incident, my dear children, no? That when he was traveling in the first class and the policeman told him that you change to the third class. So he refused that order, though he had a first class ticket for his train journey. So in that case, he stuck to his decision that yes, I will sit in first class only. Whatever you do, I will not change to third class. So he was not afraid even there in foreign country where he was all alone. He never considered that he was in a foreign land and there would be nobody to help him. As a courageous man armed with truth, he did not worry about the consequences of his fearless actions. Consequences means results. He did not worry about what will be the results of his fearless actions. In his autobiography, he describes how foolishly he acted sometimes with his wife Kasturba. He sometimes also he describes in his autobiography that sometimes he behaved very oddly with Kasturba, with his wife. He did not have any hesitation in telling the public how weak he was in his behavior at certain points of his life. He did not fear that he would lose his good image before public. Gandhiji was not afraid of that thing even, that I would lose image if I would confess my mistakes, if I would talk of my weaknesses. So in that case also Gandhiji did not fear. Gandhiji was not afraid at any time. Even talking about himself, he was very much clear and open-minded. So he did not fear that he would lose his good image before public. He was open and honest. Okay, my dear children. So let's stop here. The rest of the lesson we'll do in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day.